Well, welcome to this special episode on our YouTube channel where we thought we would cover some of the common questions that we get from people about NLP and hypnotherapy, and specifically when they're looking to study with us, what are the key points of difference? So, Paul, I thought we'd start off with going all the way back to the very beginning, because really all of Evolve and Relaunch and my business and your business and everything that has come and all the people we've taught over the years is because of some decisions you made on really early on in your life. So do you want to share a little bit about what got you into being one of the most incredible hypnotherapy trainer of NLP, and all of the amazing things that you've done in your life?
Okay, so I didn't start off like that. For me, the journey kind of goes way back. It really sort of culminated in my late teens, early 20s when there was lots of things happening in my world. My family dynamic was really interesting, had a lot of stress and a lot of interesting family dynamics going on. Was getting to the end of high school, getting into my first sort of real job, going through my first sort of relationship breakup. And all of these things were contributing to a huge amount of mental, emotional, and physical stress. I was having panic attacks. I was having really bad anxiety. My stomach and my digestive system was all over the place. Doctors have said I had irritable bowel syndrome. And when I went and saw doctors and those kind of people, they basically wanted to do tests on me and stick a tube in, all these different parts of my body. And I just kind of didn't feel like they were really actually going to help me. And what started happening in my world was I got more and more afraid of more and more things. So my fears got bigger and my world got smaller. I got to the point where if I went to the shops, I was so stressed out, so fearful and self-conscious that I'd run through the shopping centers. I was having panic attacks going to work. And so it almost felt like my world was getting smaller, my fears were getting bigger, and I was shutting down as a person. And so when I went to see doctors, and no one really was asking about what was happening with me. So I needed to make a decision to do something. And there was one night where I was going to leave the house just to go down the road to a friend's house. And I had walked to the front door maybe a dozen times. I had had a couple showers. I had done that leave the house ritual and just could not open the door. And so I kind of gave up. And as I was walking back inside feeling really defeated, I, had this one moment where I thought someone was in the house. I turned around to see who was there, and it was just me walking past the mirror, and I startled myself because I couldn't even recognize the person I saw in the mirror. And it was a really weird moment because I was staring at myself but couldn't recognize my own reflection. And I made myself a promise that night because I kind of imagined a couple of things happening at that moment where if I didn't turn things around, it wouldn't have worked out very well. And I sort of made myself a promise that I'd do whatever it took to turn things around. And that was really the starting point for me learning and going on a journey. And a whole heap of different synchronicities happened for me to find a book that was about understanding mental, emotional stuff. And then it was another book that helped me learn some basic self-hypnosis stuff. And then there was another book, and then another audio, and then a course. And then all these things started happening where I started really understanding how my mind and body connected and how what I was thinking and feeling was affecting my digestive issues, was affecting the stress response in my body. And when I started practicing these little techniques of changing the way I was thinking, changing the way I was talking to myself, and learning to put myself in a relaxed state, and then make better suggestions to myself about feeling calm, collected, and confident, that started to snowball. So then my world started opening up again. And then I started really thinking about, what do I actually want to do with my life? I wasn't just afraid of the world. I was excited about what I could do. So I started to get into personal training, which was huge because I loved movement. I loved being healthy and active. And a lot of those things had fallen away when I was in that sort of state that I talked about. So I started becoming a trainer, and that was great because I went from a kid that couldn't leave my bedroom to working in the biggest gym in South Australia, which was a huge reality shift. But what started happening pretty quickly, I realized that exercise and nutrition were great. And I learned so much about how to do corrective exercise. I learned so much about putting together nutrition plans for people. And it was funny because I had more and more things that I would tell a client to do, and I'd get worse and worse results with people. It was like, okay, this client's not getting results. Let's make an even more complicated program, or let's fine tune their diet even more. And it was just more and more things that they weren't able to do and that they were sabotaging. And it was really weird. The clients that were getting results would get to a certain point and they'd fall off. And then I'd have some clients that would literally, I'd put less energy or effort into their nutrition, lifestyle, and exercise plans, but they would get results and they'd keep them. And I'm like, why do these clients get results and those ones don't? And I started noticing some patterns. I realized that some people, their mental, emotional challenges were mirrored in their body, where they were having pain. When they would start to lose weight, things would come up for them in their world, and then they'd regress and put the weight back on. Or they'd start to get healthy, start to get out of their pain, and then all of a sudden something would happen and they'd go back into it. And that really opened my eyes up to the fact that the mind and body weren't separate, and that people's lives and challenges, if they weren't mentally and emotionally navigating them well, their health would fall apart. And so I really started to think what helped me could help my clients. And so the skills of hypnotherapy and understanding some of the basics of NLP and really getting clear on what are some of the mental, emotional challenges people are having, but also how to help them set clear goals, how to help them to understand their values and to use them to help motivate themselves. Because most people don't realize that a lot of what they do in their day-to-day life, what they eat, how they exercise, how they move, why they don't do those things is because of their values. And so when I started working with people at that level, I was getting better results with less effort. And it was funny, so I started implementing a non-sweat session once a month with my clients. And some of my clients would train 3 times a week. And then after a few months, my clients would tell me they'd get better results from the once a month sit down session than they did for the training for the rest of the month.
Wow.
That was their favorite session. And I started getting, I'd always get referrals for PT clients, but people said, oh, you're a great trainer, go train with Paul or whatever. But then when I started doing the mindset work, I would get more people referring people for hypnotherapy and NLP stuff and not for personal training, because they were like, well, this is better.
Yeah.
And so people would come see me that and then sometimes become a PT client. But it really just made me realize that that's what made the difference. Like, people know what they should and shouldn't eat. People know they need to move more, but why can't they do it?
Correct.
Why were they getting in their own way?
100%.
And so I started really leveling that up. And then other trainers were coming to me as clients and experiencing this stuff, but then also wanting to share that with their clients. So the natural progression was to teach other people to do that as well. So I had PTs that want to do it, and I traveled and actually ran the world's first NLP for PTs training and traveled around Australia running that, which was amazing. And then it just naturally progressed. And so my challenges brought me to this stuff, but then seeing the same things happening in my clients opened my eyes to the fact that everyone needs to really learn these skills, and then seeing them transform and then sharing it with other coaches that then used it with their clients. It was a natural progression.
It's such an amazing transformational story, and how much you took yourself from that closed, shut down, fear-filled state to a complete paradigm shift where you're now leading and teaching people who are already making a difference in other people's lives. And makes so much sense to go through the physical, helping people physically, and then realizing that it's so much more than that, and to be able to go deeper with people in that way as well. But having that background is definitely powerful. So
what about you? I know that you come from a completely different world to me. So how did you stumble into this kind of work?
Different planet.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's almost like the story now, when I talk about it, it just feels so far away and so long ago. But I think if I were to rewind, I got to my mid to late 20s and I realized that I had built the life that society told me I should live in order to be happy. I got married quite young. I had a corporate job where I was getting paid well and I felt like I was making a difference, and I had a nice car and a nice house, and I was like, yep, tick, 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 tick externally. Why do I feel so bad internally? And I wasn't being honest with myself. I was just masking how bad I felt internally with things like alcohol on the weekends, drinking 10 to 20 standard drinks on a Saturday night out with friends and not even thinking twice about it, drinking a bottle of wine every night after work, eating a lot of chocolate. I was probably 5 to 10 kilos heavier than I am now. And I got real with myself around the age 27 when I started my very first journal. And I started keeping a journal, And what was really interesting to me was, as I kept this journal over the course of the first week, I read it back one night and I counted the word overwhelmed about 20 times. And it was like a light bulb went off in my mind where I thought, well, maybe this is why I feel so overwhelmed. And I took a pen and paper and I wrote down everything in my life that I was feeling overwhelmed about. And then next to each of those items, I wrote a C or an A. C for the things that I could change, what I could do about it, and an A for the things that I couldn't change and that I just needed to accept. And I halved the list immediately and felt different. I felt more in the driver's seat of my life. And I know now, being a trainer of NLP, that that was the first sort of step I'd taken in my life in being at cause and being in the driver's seat of my life. But that really started a ripple effect of me, first of all, just like you, noticing the pattern of how my thoughts were influencing my emotions, but also getting in the driver's seat and stopping blaming other people for why my life was the way it was. And that was a huge turning point. I started prioritizing my health more than ever. My values had a massive shift as well. I'm sure that health and personal development went to the top of my values list, whereas before it was like friends and having fun, and, you know, my career always has been quite high. But as my values started to shift, my relationship started to fracture and my work started feeling a little less meaningful, if I'm completely honest. And over the course then of a 12-month period, I made some pretty massive life changes, and it's what prompted the title of my best-selling book, Relaunch My Life. In the space of 12 months, I completely relaunched my life. Like, I feel like I had a take two on life. And in the space of 12 months, I ended my marriage and I ended up quitting my corporate job and completely turning everything around and following my dream of becoming a life coach and helping other women find their true purpose in life. And it's so funny to kind of reflect on, because at the time I was just taking it step by step and I was just listening to my intuition and I was just listening to the clues that I was getting on my path. And that led me to meeting you about 6 months after I'd ended my marriage. And I still remember, and if you haven't read my book, I do talk about how we met, but I just remember the day that we met. It sounds so cliche, but it feels like my life was like black and white up until then. And the day that we met, it's like everything went into 3D multicolor. And it's just been the most amazing journey of me just stepping more and more into, why am I actually here on this earth? What is my purpose? What am I meant to be here to do? Like, I'm sure we're all born for a reason. And I just see so many people that are living, but they're not alive. And I'm really here to inspire and help people realize that no matter where you're at, it's never too late to take two and to say, do you know what? I'm the only one that has to live every single day in my life as a result of the decisions and choices I'm making. I'm in the driver's seat. I've got the power to change it. And so I love being that voice. And it was a couple of years after I'd started my life coaching business that I was running consecutive retreats in Bali. They were called Relaunch My Life retreats, and I'd take groups of women over for a week at a time and I would help them relaunch their life. We would have a full 24 hours of silence, which was always really beautiful as well. And it was, I think, on the second retreat that I just kept getting the same questions at workshops and retreats, the same questions of like, how did you change your life so quickly? How did you find the confidence and courage to quit your job, to start your own business, to end your marriage, to do all these things? And I just found that I was getting the same 5 to 10 questions over and over. And I thought, well, I'm going to put that into a book. And so then I wrote my best-selling book, Relaunch My Life, which is a teaching memoir with activities and things for people to do. And the ripple effect of that book culminated in so many of the coaches and the people in our community asking how I wrote my book. And so then that birthed my Birth Your book writing course. And now I'm really proud to say that there's been 10 people publish their books inside that program. And so it just feels like every step I've taken has opened more doors and created ripples. And I honestly can say that it's only because I'm always just doing what feels right at that next stage and that next step, and what feels authentic and what feels real. And I think I was interviewed actually last night in a group from Kim Morrison, one of the beautiful students that studied with us. And she said, there are so many trainers of NLP and hypnotherapy out there in the world, but no one does it the way you two do. She said, there's a realness and a depth and an authenticity that you two have. And I feel like it's almost like that, and it sounds really cliche, but that beautiful merging of our personalities and our beliefs and our personal transformations that we had through this work. Like for me, when I was working in corporate and I was going through my shifts in my personal development journey, one of the things that I noticed as a pattern as well is that the most successful people I met had studied this thing called NLP. And I was like, why do I keep meeting people that have studied NLP? What is this? And one of my mentors at the time, actually, she said to me, make sure wherever you study NLP that you find the right trainer, because you will adopt the belief systems and the structures of the trainer that teaches you. So make sure it's the right person. And so of course, when we met and you were a trainer of NLP and it all just linked in that way, like I think there is such a duty of care that we have. And I think that's really what's different about studying with us. Like we aren't just teaching the information of what NLP is. Anyone can do that. You can read a book on NLP. What we're actually doing in our courses is we're sharing the gift of what it's unlocked for us in a way that's so real, so embodied, so authentic. And I'm not just saying this to toot our horns. I'm saying this because that's what our students tell us. But also, we're never for one moment saying we're perfect. And I think there's this illusion in the personal development industry or the life coaching industry or NLP that there's these people who put themselves on pedestals. And we don't do that. And maybe sometimes that's to our detriment when it comes to marketing. We're not as interested in telling you how great we are as we are interested in helping you as a student and someone who goes through our courses in realizing your own innate greatness, but also realizing that your client, if you're coaching someone, is the one that has the answers. And it's not you that has the pressure to get a result for your client. It's you're going to have tools and abilities to help unlock what's already inside your client. And so my journey has just been this amazing. I know that was a lot of different things that I brought into that, but it just felt really important to share that it's only ever been one step at a time. And I think it's really easy for us to look at other people's journeys and then condense 10 years of growth into, oh, I have to do all of that now. No, just take the next step that feels authentic for you and figure out what that is and just keep taking small daily steps. And that's all we've both really done. But when you collapse it all into 15, or in your case, nearly 20 years of growth, it seems quite a big shift. So,
well, one thing that I noticed in your journey is you have taken a lot of jumps from that safety in the moment that you know you weren't happy in into something bigger and maybe scary for some people. Like, what helped you to do that?
Oh, 100%. NLP and self-hypnosis and hypnotherapy. I don't know how anyone takes brave action without knowing how to tap into the different aspects of your subconscious and your mindset. I think I can't help but use the tools and the skills. Like, it's a perception and a way that I filter reality now, and it's a filtering reality for possibilities and opportunities and what if it could, versus when I was much younger, I would filter for all the things that would go wrong and what if I can't, and what if I can't, and so I think that's a real difference. So yeah, I think that that's really important. And one thing I will just add as well is, like, we both had our own individual businesses. Like, you had your personal training business that transformed into your coaching and training business, Evolve Mind and Body Coaching. And I had my business Relaunch My Life, which was running retreats and teaching spiritual development and doing life coaching. And then it was about 6 years ago now, after I first started teaching NLP, that we merged our businesses together, and that was the birth of Evolve and Relaunch. We kind of blended the hybrids of our business names together. And so Evolve and Relaunch Education was birthed, and we ran our first master practitioner together. And then from there, we've gone into teaching all sorts of different things together. And it's such it's been, again, a really organic transformation into that as well. So.
And I think, like you mentioned, people always, wanting to pick the right trainers and the right places to study. For us, we have our own unique background and how we've brought things together. And people will say, well, how are you guys different? Why do you do things the way that you do? And obviously we have our life experience that we bring to it, and us being both able to share our journeys is very, very interesting. Like, a lot of what people experience in our courses is the dynamic of both our worlds coming together and our past stories and the people we've worked with and what we've overcome. Because a lot of people will see things in my story and my journey that they've learned or they're experiencing in themselves or people they know, but then also yours as well. And getting the two different energies that we both have and the two different styles of presenting, it really gets people to realize it doesn't matter who you are and how you do things, you can help anyone. And so really seeing the power of both, your more professional style than mine
Sometimes.
more jokey, but also challenging and direct style at times, but then you do flip as well. And that's what's fun about the training as well. People think, oh, Paul's like this, Juliet's like that. And then they'll see us show up differently in different sections. And they're like, okay, well, no, they're both kind of like this and like that. And so that helps people to really understand that they can be themselves and they can show up how they are and not have to be just like this or just like that. They can still be a coach, they can still be a therapist, they can still be a presenter and be themselves, and it not be like you have to be this little thing and fit in a square.
Yes.
And so for a lot of people at the end of the training, they go, oh, thank you so much for just being yourself.
You do that, yeah.
And you too.
Yeah.
And showing me that's okay. Like that's therapeutic in and of itself. And I think a lot of people, they've said they've been through other trainings where people are just only like a certain way and they then try to model that, and that's not realistic. It's not something you can stick to.
And this is something, a lot of presenters, I'm always amazed how they're just like always exactly the same.
Yeah.
And we're constantly evolving. Like our motto is keep evolving. It's on your t-shirt. So if someone does training with us, like every time we teach, we always say to every student, every group of students, this is going to be the best training that we've ever taught, because we are the most wise and evolved versions of us that have ever existed. And we've never taught this group of people, and we always set that intention, and it literally always happens. Every single training gets better because we're more dynamic, we're more connected, we're more rich, we've evolved, we're stronger, there's different things there. And I think one thing I would say is that somehow magically, I don't know how it works, but just like how we met, somehow we magically seem to attract just the most incredible students. Like our community, this is one thing that our students always say, is being a part of the community and the students and the people you'll meet and the connections. It's like no other training. I remember one training, a student actually came up to me and said, this is the first time I've done a course and there's no annoying person. And I joked with her. I said, well, maybe it's you, right? It was a joke, but we'd like to joke with our students. But she said, normally, but we're really aware that as a facilitator as well, the group's going to reflect us. And I've been to courses, and I'm not going to name names, but I've been to courses where that a quarter to a half of the people in that course are just there because they want the piece of paper. They don't actually want to grow. They don't actually want to be vulnerable. They don't want to actually embody what they're learning. In our trainings, we attract people who really want that. They want not just the piece of paper, but they want to have earned it and know that they've transformed in the process. And I think that's one of the things why someone should choose to study with us, is that we help you to work on yourself at the same time as acquiring the skills.
You get the transformation as well as the information. And I think some people, they want to tick the box. I know the stuff, but they haven't done and applied the stuff. Whereas people that have done our courses, they walk out and they're different. Like we have people say that the quality of coaches that where'd you study? Like, why are you so good at that? Yeah, I know. It really stands out. And I think when you mentioned like the dynamic between the students also change the training and they make us show up different and they bring out different things in us. And we really teach the students as well that the clients are going to do that for them too.
Yes.
The clients,
you can't have the client session prepared if you don't have the client in front of you.
The client will bring out the best in you. And we really, one of the things that we really focus on is really empowering our coaches to not be the expert. The client's the expert. The client is the one that knows the problem, knows where it came from, and knows why they're doing it, and also has the solution inside of them. And as a coach, if you know that, or as a person, if you know that you have that inside you too, and that's what we empower our students to realize, that there's nothing missing in you. You have it. You've just somehow shut it off or forgotten where you put it. And as a coach, facilitator, or as a teacher, our job is to help you to connect to that. And we really, that's our number one overarching principle, is for our coaches and our students to really embody that. So when they're sitting with a person, to see that in them and know that, so the person starts believing it themselves, and then they have access to it again. And so we really want our students, our coaches, to embody that and really walk away knowing that about themselves and knowing that about anyone they ever get to work with or encounter in their life, that they're not, you have to be this perfect person or an expert to fix your client. Your client's not broken. They just have, had a few triggers, had a few beliefs, had a few things happen in life, and they've shut themselves down and forgotten that they are more than what they think they are right now. And so your job is to help them to connect with that, and they will help you to do it. Like some of the great techniques and tools that we teach really just help the client back to themselves. And it's magic to do as a coach, because the client does most of the work, and it's easier when they're doing it versus you trying to force someone to change.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really beautiful. Like, we don't just have people study with us that want to be coaches. We have people who come and study with us. Maybe they're a salesperson or a HR manager, and they just want to improve their understanding of reality and the world and people and communication and connection in that way, because you bring yourself into every interaction in life. And so by leveling up your understanding of yourself and your communication, your beliefs, your values, you literally level up your life experience. But what I also love is we have had personal trainers, of course, carers, parents, yoga teachers study with us, but also doctors, psychologists. And some of the psychologists that have studied with us have actually said, oh my gosh, it's so nice to be able to actually do a course where I get to work on me.
Yeah.
Because so many psychologists, and they're doing amazing hard work out there in the community, doing such a service, but all of their training was about helping other people, and maybe they actually had some stuff in their childhood that they haven't been able to work through, because now they've got this label and there's this perception that they're perfect and they've got everything figured out. And I think we really just also allow people to remove the masks because of our vulnerability and authenticity and the way that we teach and communicate with the group. It's like everyone just takes this big sigh of relief of like, oh great, I can drop the masks and I can actually just learn some things and transform, and doesn't matter what my label is out there in this training environment, I'm a student and I'm learning. And so we're also always learning. Like, we learn just as much when we're studying as well from the group.
Unlearning. Like, a lot of what we teach is, people think, oh, you're going to teach me hypnotherapy. It was actually, I'm going to help you unhypnotize yourself from a lot of the unuseful patterns that you have, or you're going to learn to unlearn some of the bad behaviors or the thinking and thought loops that you've got yourself in before. And that's really powerful. And I just want to add as well, it doesn't matter what background people have been through, the continual ability to connect and work with other people that you've met in the training, and continuing to do the mental hygiene work. It's not like you go to the dentist, get your teeth cleaned, and then that's it for the rest of your life.
Never brush your teeth again.
Like, one of the best things about our community is we encourage swap sessions. We encourage you to keep working with each other outside of the course. It's not like you do the course and that's it, your life's perfect. It's, okay, you're going to uncover and shift a ton in that training, but life's going to keep bringing you stuff. And if you don't keep brushing your teeth, you don't keep having showers, you're going to accumulate muck, right? So you want to keep working with people to keep you moving forward and keep you just being in touch with what's going on in your world, clearing things as they come up. And as you set higher goals, you start achieving new things, you're going to bump up against different stuff. And having a team of people around you to support you, a lot of people say that's worth it by themselves, because like, coaching and therapy is invaluable, but there is a price tag on it. But just having people in your world that are doing that with you and seeing you grow as you grow together, that's really powerful as well.
Definitely. So let me ask you a question then.
Yeah.
What is something that people don't realize when it comes to, say, traditional life coaching or even counseling versus NLP and hypnotherapy?
Yeah. So in my little journey that I talked about, I actually studied traditional life coaching certificates. I did wellness coaching certificates. I have done a lot of different stuff, and it's all fantastic. You do learn a lot of great things, how to set goals, things to tell people to do, little activities, etc. But what I found with, and this is what I started working with clients with to start with, helping them set a goal, helping them make a list of things they want to change in their life, etc., was great. And then we catch up a month later and we'd set the same goal. We talk about all the things that didn't happen and why they didn't do it and what they were going to change this month. Then we'd catch up the next month, and it was basically Groundhog Day. It was the same story, the same excuses, the same reasons they weren't doing things. And I got sick of banging my head against the wall. I was like, what the hell is going on? And it was bad for me as a coach because I wasn't getting my client a result. And it was bad for my client because they felt bad every month, like that they weren't getting what so it actually made us both feel worse. And people don't like doing stuff like that where they're just constantly admitting to each other, look, I don't know what I'm doing and you obviously aren't doing it, so what the hell? And I didn't want to make people pay for something that wasn't getting them a result. So again, looking at why do people do things? People do things, they're inspired and motivated and make decisions and filter reality based on their unconscious filters, their values, what's important to them. They're going to spend money, they're going to spend time and energy and fill their space and focus on and think about and plan for things that are important to them, their inherent values. They're going to do things in alignment with their beliefs and their identity. They're going to, be influenced by their blueprint, their programming, and their past associations. I could write as many goals as I can in the most specific, clear way and have action lists. But if someone doesn't value health, they're not going to spend money on it. They're not going to spend time on it. They're not going to plan ahead and do the things when their career is more important, their relationship is more important, their kids more important. It's like the 20th thing in their head that they think about when the other things are more important. They're never going to get to it. So until I started working with clients at that level, I was just banging my head against the wall.
Using NLP and hypnotherapy.
Yeah, so this is why those traditional life coaching, they're great because it will help people get clarity. It does bring some conscious awareness. And this is where I talk about the difference between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. Like if you're working at the conscious level, you're only really working with the tip of the iceberg. It's the part of you that has awareness, but it's not the part of you that is actually running the show. It's your unconscious and subconscious part of your body mind is the part of you that is on autopilot and running those inherent programming. It's doing the things that you've always done. It's staying safe. It's keeping everything working. And unless you're readjusting that and resetting the coordinates and telling it now it's okay to do this or this is more important, then you're really basically, using a really crude term, pissing in the wind. You're not ever going to get a result because you're fighting against the biggest part of yourself. But when I started bringing in these other tools, working with the unconscious mind, using the NLP, using timeline, using hypnosis, I was connecting my clients to their values, shifting their beliefs, getting rid of the internal conflicts that were getting people stuck, like their self-sabotage, some of their parts that were, part of me wants to do this, part of me wants to do that, and I felt this internal struggle. When those things got resolved, they were 100% in alignment consciously and unconsciously. It's like the metaphor we give is there's the captain of the ship that's saying, go that way. But if the crew and the boat and the wind are all blowing in the other direction, it doesn't matter how loud the captain's yelling, the boat's going to go where the wind's blowing and the crew's rowing. So when you get the captain and the crew together and you turn the boat around and the wind has been adjusted in the sails, everything will go smoothly. It's smooth sailing from there. That's what really happens when you work with the unconscious mind and you set goals and you align the unconscious mind with your clients. And that's why I do this work, because it got me better results and it got my clients better results. And so traditional life coaching is great, but if you really want to make a difference in people's lives, then you really need to work at that level with people.
And then I suppose the difference between counseling and say NLP and hypnotherapy is NLP is really one of the first forms of therapy that was more outcome based and future focused on really getting clear on, well, what is it that you want to achieve? Where do you want to go? And then if there's anything blocking you from that, say beliefs, programming, past, clearing that, all with the outcome of where it is you're wanting to head. Whereas for a lot of people, counseling is, well, this is the problem I'm having now, and it's going back into the past, and it can be spending weeks, years, even months sometimes talking about the same problems, recreating even stronger neural networks and associations and connections around it. And as we know about hypnosis, all language is hypnosis. So they're also revivifying, they're bringing back up all the emotions of the negative things without generally ever getting to the root cause. And so I think there's, for me, in the industry, there's so many different names of modalities for things that all I see are a derivation of NLP. Because I think if you really understand what NLP is, it stands for neuro-linguistic programming. It's basically understanding the language of your mind and the programs that you're running on habit. And so people talk about, oh, now I'm studying root cause therapy. For me, that's a form of timeline therapy, which is taught in NLP. A lot of different modalities these days for me are just a blend of NLP and hypnotherapy. And so that's why I think that's the core of what we teach, because if you understand the structures of that, then you can see how all modalities are formed and how majority of modalities are a form of hypnosis and suggestion anyway as well. And I think that's the biggest thing, I think, in learning hypnotherapy is understanding not only your self-talk and the impact and the power that has on yourself and your life, but also how everyone is always communicating to you. And that's a form of hypnosis and suggestion. And people do not realize how sloppy they can be with suggestions to other people. Like, I caught up with a friend not that long ago, and she started making direct suggestions to me, not realizing she was saying, and you know when you feel really bad and you go, and I'm like, no, I feel great. Like have that forced field up where we often don't realize how much we're actually unconsciously taking in.
Yeah.
And I think that's so empowering. But then if you are in a leadership capacity in a business setting, or you are a coach, or you are in even a personal trainer or a yoga instructor, to understand the impact. If you're talking to groups, you need to understand the impact your communication is happening on groups, and that mass communication that it's happening, and the suggestions that you have.
So
when
to
you're in
even
that role.
unpack a little bit more what you said, A lot of people are like, well, why doesn't everyone know hypnosis and do hypnotherapy? Well, the truth is everyone does do hypnotherapy, but most of the time it's sloppy. So even if we go back to the example you said of someone doing counseling or talking about a problem. So they think, okay, yeah, I'm getting my client to talk about the problem, but the client's body mind, if they're thinking about a past negative experience and they're reliving it and talking about it, is actually activating it in their physiology.
Yes.
Your body mind doesn't know the difference between the past and the future. If it's happening in your mind, it's happening in your body. So if they're reliving a traumatic event and they start talking about it and they start getting images in their mind, they're going to start physically feeling the same emotions and sensations they were feeling at that time. So it's basically bathing their body in the stew of whatever thing that was going on then. So it's actually activating and reliving and re-traumatizing the person again sometimes if it's not worked through effectively. And so a lot of people don't realize they're actually unconsciously putting their clients in negative emotional states, which can be useful, but most of the time, if just done every week for years and months and talking about how bad they feel and how much the other person was the problem and that they're going to be traumatized forever and that they're never going to get over it, and then putting a label on it, they're building up an identity, they're building up this super ingrained feeling that's super easy to access now, that they've generalized into a lot of other things. That can be super unuseful. So there is a time and place to dig up things, but if the person you're working with doesn't know how to then help you shift out of it and learn from it and transform it and turn that what seemed negative experience into the transformative thing that helps you grow, because there can be post-traumatic stress, but there also can be post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
So the same event doesn't have to mean negative and my life's terrible after that. That same event can mean awesome, that's what I needed to now go to here, and it's the platform for growth and the platform for transformation. A great skilled therapist, the kind of people we teach, helps anyone with whatever that problem and situation was to not turn it into PTSD, but turn it into post-traumatic growth. And actually, that was vital in their life. They look back and they're grateful for it. And now it's been the catalyst for them to become who they are. And now they look back at it as something useful and not holding them back anymore.
Yeah.
And so this is why we're really passionate about teaching this stuff, because people are doing it anyway. When you sit down with your friend, you talk about how shit your life is, you're doing hypnosis. When you're talking about all the good stuff that happened in your life too, you're also putting your body mind into that as well. So what are you priming and training your body to think and feel on a regular basis? Most people aren't even aware that they're basically doing that.
What about when people say, oh, what if I can't be hypnotized?
Awesome. So again, people have this misconception of what hypnosis actually is and actually isn't. So there's hypnosis and there's suggestion and there's altered states. They're two different things as well. But in a basic nutshell, anytime someone communicates verbally or non-verbally, they're influencing you. So even if I stood up really tall and stood over you with a frowny face looking at you, that might make you feel like, what the hell's going on? I didn't say anything, but my unconscious communication affected a person.
Yes.
If I start stumbling, that unconsciously affects people. They're going to feel different about that. So even the way someone gestures, the tone of someone's voice unconsciously is influencing someone. If I was walking down the street and a big yellow bus pulled out in front of me and it went, the brakes came on and then the doors opened up and this clown, super big red shoes, stepped out, super big red nose and had these colorful balloons and then looked at me, winked and then flew off in the air. For you to understand that story and for you to even have any grasp of what I'm saying, you had to be making some images of that at an unconscious level. So anytime someone's taking in words someone's speaking, they're creating images, thoughts, associations, and feelings in their body unconsciously. And so the process of understanding language is hypnotic. All communication is hypnotic in nature. It's just what is your intention of doing it and where are you going with it? And this is why any person who uses communication to motivate a team, to help people transform, to work with a family, friends, kids, etc., realizing that all the words you're saying are creating images, thoughts, sensations, and feelings, and especially if you are a parent or you're working with groups, etc., you're helping to build someone's self-image. You're helping to build the way they think and feel about themselves and what they can and can't do, or whether or not they should be motivated to do something. All of these things are huge, and people don't realize how easily it can go in the right way, but how easily you can actually put it down a path you don't want it to go.
Your life is an echo of your past. And so the things that are showing up in your reality are there to show you what's there to be released, healed. Like what I see is so many people, like what you said at the very beginning of this interview, like you were living, it felt like Groundhog Day. A lot of people are just living the same patterns, the same reactions, the same things, but they're not self-aware, so they're not seeing the habit loops that they're in. So I would say start journaling, start writing them down, start noticing them, and bring them to a coach or come and study with us. Like I really think people go for a week holiday every year, twice a year, and they come back and they're pretty much the same, and then they regret not going on more holidays. But I just think if you work on yourself, like our courses are a week long, pressing pause on life and spending a week diving into your unconscious reality that is creating everything that you do, think, touch, experience, that's how you can start turning your life into feeling more like a holiday. And I really feel like that's what the courses help people do, is change the operating system that you're running so that you can start attracting something different. Because honestly, for me, I just hear people complaining about the same stuff and not doing anything differently about it. And that's the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
So that would be what I would say. I would say if you're listening to this and you've got this far, then you may as well book in a time to have a chat with us. There's a couple of links at the bottom of this episode, which number one is my all-time favorite hypnotic recording that you have done. It is your deep state relaxation audio. We're going to have the link for you in the bottom of this episode. And then there's also a link to book in a complimentary chat with us and our team. And we'll just find out about where you're at, what your goals are, and if the courses are a fit for you. We love to talk to people before they come and do our courses to make sure that it is the right step for you. Some people, it's best for them to do some coaching with someone before they go into our trainings. But I would just say if you're here and you're curious, then keep trusting those nudges. And just like I did all those years ago, like just take one step every day. And this is an amazing step that really it's only going to help you understand yourself, understand others, and be able to operate your life with less friction. And for me, I think that's one of the most empowering things you can do.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to reiterate what you just said there. Like people aren't living new years in their life. They're just repeating the same thing. So a lot of people you're going to run into, they've wasted a decade just replaying the same patterns. So instead of unpacking your bags on a holiday, unpack your mental, emotional blocks and actually work through them. Like our trainings, just imagine a week deep diving and understanding why you're doing and not doing the things in your life that you want to do, why you keep getting in your way, and understanding and seeing where it all comes from. But not only that, actually shifting it so that you can walk away from that and actually return back to your life. And having made those changes, it is super, super powerful. And then for a lot of people having the skills to do that for a job, that's transformative as well. So we'd love to help you to do that. I love sharing this information. I love doing it with you. It's amazing that we get to do this as a team. So if you guys are interested in chatting to us, then reach out. We'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And comment below and let us know what was your biggest light bulb or takeaway from this episode. And we look forward to seeing you at one of our trainings. Or if you have studied with us, send this episode to a friend that you think would be interested in finding more about how they're just being hypnotized all the time. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Bye.